what's up guys? Thanks for clicking on this video. I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe if you're not already. That would be really great. I wanted to take a few minutes to look at the Dewalt DWS779. This is close to as much compound miter saw as you can get from Dewalt, and it's a really awesome saw. I just wanted to go over the good things and the kind of negative things about it. First off, of course, it's a beautiful saw, and it has almost all the bells and whistles you can expect, except for a laser or light system. That's the only thing you would get with their higher up model. I'll put the number there on the screen now. Their XPS lighting system, which you can buy as an upgrade for this saw. I might do that in the future, but that would be the only thing you can get more from the Dewalt line, I believe. Now, in terms of power, it is just an incredibly powerful saw. I've never found it bogging in any scenario, whether you're quick ripping 2x6 or anything like that. It just does a really awesome job. It's also a very precise saw. Before this, I've only owned cheaper miter saws, and they're always sloppy, and you never feel like trusting them with more intricate cuts on moldings and stuff like that. But this saw, everything is just so rigid. All the pivots and everything are just so tight and rigid, and there's just no slop and play. You know your cuts are going to be accurate. Now, this is a sliding compound miter saw, and that, with a saw this size, that big 12-inch blade, gives you a total real-world cut capacity of about 13, maybe at most 13 and 5/8. I think it's advertised as a little bit more than that, but that is the max you can get before your blade tooth would actually bring up. It will not allow you to come any farther than, I'll say, 13 and 5/8, and that would really be pushing the limits of the saw. Now, if you're just constantly making shortcuts and you don't want your power head kind of moving around like that, there are two options. You have this little stop here, this mechanical stop that locks in. So now, as you can see, your slide won't operate, and you're just in standard chop saw position. Another option you have is right around on this side of the saw. So you can slide the saw to whatever position, lock it in, and it really, really grabs on to the slide here and does not allow your power head to move. So that's just kind of a backup option. If I'm carrying the saw, I would lock it in and just cinch this down so I know nothing's sliding around. Now, this system right here makes the saw, in my opinion. I have never seen this before. What you basically have are a bunch of graduated stops along with these adjustable markers. Check your saw out of box to make sure everything is nice and square. Mine was out of box. But as you can see, it pivots both ways, and this is the beauty here. Push button. So once you press that button and unlock it, it'll push until it hits the next graduated slot, which are most of your main cuts here. So your 0, 15, 22.5 there. As you can see, dead on 22.5. Very precise markings. But if you wanted a degree in between, that's where this lever comes in. You lock your saw in, and again, I just can't say enough about how rigid this saw platform is. Everything is just rock solid. When that's locked in, it's not coming out, I can tell you that. Now, as for the tilt feature, Dewalt has some beautiful engineering as well. Very clean. What you have, this is pretty standard here, so you would unlock your saw, and then it's free floating, only one direction, that is to the left. But you have this unlock tab. You see this yellow lever back here, so you pull that out and unlock your saw. Now it can fall to the right as well. Now, Dewalt has incorporated these two graduated stops here, 22.5 degrees and just about 34 degrees here, which I believe is for crown moldings, for compound cuts for crown moldings. I'm not familiar with that. I've never done any work with crown. The 22.5 is nice. And the way these work is they just flip out in front of this adjustment bolt here. So it's really quick if you want to switch to a different angle. Just drops right in place, and if neither are out, I'll get unlock the saw again, but you fall right to 45 degrees. Of course, you can stop anywhere in between and lock the saw in place. Very rigid once again. Now, Dewalt did build the saw with this really sleek bump stop system. It's a flip down tab here. There's a couple on the other side as well. And then you have this adjustable nut with a wing nut here, like a backstop. So what you would do is you would set that depth. So now your saw only cuts as deep as that stop will allow. It is really nice, but I would find it only useful if you were making a lot of repetitive cuts. The same, say you were cutting a whole lot of lap joints. That's where I can think that this would come in really handy. If you're cutting a whole bunch of lap joints and you wanted all the same dimension recess there, or mortise, whatever you want to call it, you could set this depth, but it does take a little while. I've attempted to use it before. It takes a little while to get your saw depth dialed in perfectly by that by this depth screw here. Does take a little while, but if you were doing a lot of the same repetitive tasks, like I said, it'd be handy that you could just leave this set up and flip that tab out whenever you needed it. A couple of cool fence features as well. There's a tightening knob right here that releases the fence, that allows you to extend this fence quite significant ways, and the machining on this is very tight, so it does stay straight. I verified it stays really nice and straight, and once again, ultra rigid. I mean, that's just hanging there just by maybe 2 inches, a little bit of the track hanging on there, and I mean, it's as rigid as the saw base is. And that's very easy to throw out. Very easy. You would also want to throw this out for certain compound or full sliding cuts to get the fence out of the way. As you can see here, as that saw falls down, you would need to back this fence out of the way. But you can bring it in and you have such a tall, rigid fence here for cuts with for moldings, things that are very pliable. I've used cheaper saws that are wide open here, and you ended up with some flex and some play in your cuts in here. Another really cool feature is this Dewalt hold down here. This locks in the base, but it switches over to the other side of the saw as well if you wanted that. What you have a tightening knob here, so it locks down in the system. And it's kind of like a bench dog type clamp, so you can bring this in over, drop it on your workpiece, and crank it down. So if you had a really long piece of molding or a piece of inch board or something that was difficult to hang on to, you could drop this in over, lock down back here, a little pinch here, rubber feet on it to protect your piece. And I mean, this piece is locked in place. It's a second hand. You know, sometimes if you're dealing with a long piece, it tends to want to drape off the ends, especially if you don't have a real good saw base. Drapes off the ends and wants to crown here. This allows you to really cinch it down on your cut table here. So as you can tell, I'm really able to go on about how awesome this saw is. It just is so incredible, precise, all the features that I could want. I am thinking hard about buying the XPS lighting system, even though I don't really need it. I'm sure it would be nice in certain circumstances, but I love the saw. There are a couple things that I don't like and that you might want to consider when purchasing this saw. First off, because of the design, because of what it is, a sliding 12-inch miter saw, it is massive. I mean, really, really large, especially with the dust collector on the back. Fully extended like this, right to the back edge of the dust collector with the power head moved all the way back to the front of the handle. You have just about 51 inches. So it needs a lot of space off the wall to operate. You cannot run this saw in a small room. That said, to store, bring the power head all the way in. You can lock it down in place. And then I store it completely turned to one side. That really brings the footprint down quite a bit to roughly 25 inches. So it isn't too bad to store, but you need a lot of room to operate it. Also, it's a really heavy saw. It's fine for me. It stays here set up on the stand. I'm not a contractor. I'm not going around all the time. It does have a good solid handle up here, but even with that handle, it's still really big and clumsy. Just not a comfortable saw to lug around. My last gripe with the saw is the dust collection. It really is not impressive. None of these saws do overly well. If you had direct suction on there all the time, so it was putting a pressure on the system, I'm sure it would do a lot better. But just as these little bags that come on the back here, it may as well not be on there. Really, I've been cutting moldings now for about a day, and there's almost no MDF dust in that bag, so it may as well not be on there. So that's about all I have to say about this incredible saw. I'm just really proud to own it. It's an awesome piece to add to my tool collection, and it really gives me good results. It makes my work easy and precise, good quality, all those things you want when you're doing the type of work that we do. If you have any questions, please comment down below. I'll try to get you any information that I can get. It's mounted on a DWS724, which is a smaller size folding Dewalt stand with the extendable arms. It's just a beautiful, beautiful little stand, very rigid as well, and compact, which is what I'm looking for my shop here. I don't use a miter saw every day. It's not something I use all too often, so I can't have it taking up mass amounts of my shop when real estate is expensive. So I want something that's really compact to store and can open up and expand when I need it to. Again, please hit that like button, subscribe to my channel if it's your first time here. Have a great day.